Michael stuck his head out of the car window, flashing a sly grin, and said this. "You're no longer needed, someone else is here, so you don't have to come back." At that moment, I felt a shiver run down my spine. Outside, the wind was howling, and the sound of rain beating against the window amplified my anxiety. The sea in front of me was stormy, its waves seeming ready to engulf me. I was 9 months pregnant, holding my heavy belly, and I didn't have a driver's license. I couldn't go outside in this state. He'd help me. "I'm telling you, I can't drive," I screamed at Michael. However, he just smirked and turned his back on me. "Well then, try your best to run away." He said this contentedly and left. Thinking that this was the end of it all, I resigned myself and closed my eyes. I am Daisy, 35 years old. I used to be a nurse, but now I'm a full-time housewife. Being 9 months pregnant and having a big belly has made life harder than before. But I'm looking forward to the day I meet my baby. I can't wait to meet my baby. Every day, I talk to my child, filled with this thought. My meeting with my husband, Michael, was about 5 years ago at a marriage counseling office. I've always been shy and had no experience in love, so I never thought I'd find a partner in my daily life. Following my father's advice, I honestly registered at the marriage counseling office. Having lost my mother quite some time ago, my father was probably worried about my future after he was gone. Understanding his concern, I promptly visited the marriage counseling office when he suggested it. In the office, there was a difference in the number of men introduced to women in their 20s and 30s. Naturally, more men were introduced to women in their 20s. I regretted not going to the marriage counseling office sooner. But the moment I met Michael, all my regrets were swept away. Michael was handsome, with a face like an actor's, and his manner was gentle and attractive. The only concern was his low income. But I decided not to worry about it as my income as a nurse was stable. Our relationship progressed smoothly, and astonishingly, we were married a year later. I thought my father would be relieved that I became Michael's wife. "How is it? Did you get pregnant?" A few months later, the topic of children came up with Michael. I also wanted children, and considering my age, we decided to synchronize our efforts for pregnancy. As my friends were getting married and having children, the desire to move forward grew stronger. Sorry, it didn't work out this time. I was in my 30s when I started trying to conceive and visited a gynecologist for the first time. I thought it was the fastest way to get answers on any matter. At the gynecologist, it was necessary to continue checking the maturity of the eggs and estimating the ovulation day. However, this involved a considerable financial burden, and the pregnancy journey was not easy. I hoped to get pregnant with minimal burden, but it wasn't as easy as I had thought. Although Michael seemed understanding, occasionally, his irritation showed through. Synchronizing our marital life for pregnancy might have been stressful and taxing on his tired body from work. I understood his feelings, but I thought there was no need to express them so openly. Sorry. I hope it works next time. Sigh. I'm counting on you to get it right next time. Michael seemed to blame me for not getting pregnant smoothly. When he said, "Get it right next time," I couldn't help but think this wasn't something I could achieve through effort alone. Despite my doubts about Michael's attitude, I decided to undergo fertility testing. I was hoping that if we could find the cause, it might bring us closer to pregnancy. A few weeks later, I reported the results of the fertility tests to Michael. I had the tests done, and there weren't any particular problems. However, it seems difficult to pinpoint a definite cause for infertility. Maybe it can't be helped. So, it was just a waste of money, huh? Michael's response was rather cool. Despite my worries and undergoing the tests, he didn't offer a single word of comfort. I didn't necessarily want comforting words, but realizing that he fundamentally believed the problem of not having children was my fault made me feel complicated. Hey, you know, infertility can sometimes be caused by the male partner. I know you might not like it, but would you consider getting tested? If the problem wasn't with me, there might be a chance that Michael was the cause. However, knowing how complicated it would be to face the possibility of being the cause, I asked him carefully, considering his feelings. However, Michael's reaction to the suggestion was one of disgust. And the way he looked at me changed. What? Are you serious? The infertility issue is your fault. Why should I have to get tested? Michael's irritated voice sounded unusually loud in my ears, and the air grew heavy. Marital life should be built on cooperation and understanding. And it was harsh to have the cause of infertility pushed solely onto me. Even if he wanted to refuse, couldn't he have chosen his words differently? But fearing that I might upset Michael further and affect our future efforts to conceive, I couldn't muster the courage to argue. Right. You're correct. Let's just keep trying together without any tests. My voice sounded resigned, but Michael just snorted and walked away. I decided to think that the long struggle with infertility must be tiring him out as well. I had thought this pain in my heart was something we could share as a couple. It's not just me who's suffering. Still, deep sighs were incessant in my heart. It's been 3 years since we started infertility treatments, and we've tried everything. After realizing timing methods weren't effective, we attempted artificial insemination and in vitro fertilization, but to no avail. Driven by our strong desire for a child, we persevered. However, at one point, we decided to give up on having a child and enjoy our life as a couple, and started spending more relaxed time together. Then, in this new lifestyle, I discovered I was pregnant. Yes. I'm pregnant. The moment the home pregnancy test showed a positive result, I was overjoyed. Michael was surprised too and kept asking, "Really?" That moment might have been the happiest in my life. The joy of this pregnancy, coming after struggling with fertility issues and nearly giving up, was exceptional. It felt like something had been watching over us. When I told my father, he was delighted, saying, "I'm so happy I'll get to see my grandchild's face." When the pregnancy was confirmed at the hospital, my life changed significantly. Since nursing was physically demanding, I decided to quit, relying on Michael's income and my savings. However, as my life changed significantly, Michael's attitude began to change drastically too. He was upset about restrictions on drinking and going out due to my pregnancy, and started showing an unhappy face every day. It's often said that marriage cools down during pregnancy, and Michael seemed to be a prime example. He started coming home late on weekdays and going out early on weekends, showing no interest even when I had medical appointments. "I have a checkup today, aren't you free after? Let's go out somewhere. Staying at home all the time is depressing. You're the only one who's free." "I'm busy with work." "But it's Saturday, your day off, isn't it?" "Shut up. I have work left over." A useless pregnant woman should just keep quiet. Honestly, I was quite angry with Michael's attitude towards me. Every time he spoke to me rudely, I felt like something inside me was breaking. I never imagined he had this side to him before we got married. Whether the long infertility treatment caused the change in Michael, or if he was always indifferent to a pregnant wife, I couldn't be sure. But it was clear that his attitude towards me had changed, emphasizing his coldness. Since becoming pregnant, Michael had been completely indifferent to my condition and restrictions, continuing his selfish behavior. No matter how unwell I felt, he neither cooked meals in my place nor helped with the household chores. Sometimes he even ordered me around in a tone like, "Hurry up and prepare dinner. I'm not feeling well today. Can we eat out or buy some ready-made meals?" "What are you talking about? Eating out costs money, you know. We can't afford such wasteful expenses. I'm the only one working, after all. You should work more too. Don't laze around just because you're a stay-at-home wife." I began to lose understanding of Michael, who just kept making such dismissive remarks. Despite struggling with morning sickness and physical changes, I managed to do all the housework, yet I never heard a word of appreciation from Michael. Michael, who promised to cherish our family when we got married, has not even greeted my father yet. My father is eagerly waiting for the day Michael will visit him. But Michael doesn't seem to care about that. I had visited Michael's parents to greet them before our marriage, which made his attitude even more unacceptable to me. While struggling with my poor health, I prepared a meal for Michael. I didn't have an appetite, so I only made food for him. But he ate without concern for me not joining him. Thinking about continuing life this way made me feel increasingly heavy-hearted. It was clear that Michael had no intention of helping with child rearing in the future. Tears spilled over as I realized the reality we had reached. After overcoming infertility treatment was far from ideal. However, time passes no matter what, and I entered my 9th month of pregnancy. I prepared for the baby's arrival with my father's help. Of course, Michael was no help at all, and I had stopped relying on him. Now, the only person I could rely on was my father. Amidst all this, during the summer holiday, Michael suggested we go on a trip. A trip? Well, I'm already 9 months along, so it might not be possible. You can make it. The due date is still a way off. And I'll make sure it's not too much for you. It'll be fine. After some thought, I decided to go along with Michael's suggestion. I was more happy than anxious that Michael was proposing a trip after such a long time. On the day of the summer holiday, I got into Michael's car with our luggage. It was already past 6 in the evening, and it was getting dark outside. Michael is good at driving, and we always take the car for long trips. As someone without a driver's license, I find the idea of long drives daunting. But Michael always seems confident. Hey, I just realized I haven't asked where we're going. Where are we headed? That's a secret. There's a surprise waiting. I felt excited but also anxious about this unusual behavior from Michael. It was surprising that he, who usually treated me so casually, suddenly started taking care of me. I checked that my phone was in my pocket and fastened my seatbelt. It's been over 3 hours. Where are we going? I'd be happy if you could just sit back and enjoy the ride. No matter how many times I asked, Michael wouldn't tell me our destination. The weather was turning bad. And I started to feel a bit sad thinking we might not enjoy the trip if it kept up. Then, after about an hour more of driving, rain suddenly started pouring down, turning into a thunderstorm. I must have fallen asleep, and when I woke up, the situation was surprisingly bad. Outside, it was dark, and lightning lit up the night sky. Hey, is it safe to drive in this rain? It's fine, they said there would be a little rain on the weather forecast. The rain was getting heavier, far from what Michael called a little rain. The car windows were being pelted with large drops. And the wind was so strong that our car on the highway was shaking badly. I reached for my phone in my pocket, filled with anxiety that we might get into an accident. At that moment, Michael turned off the highway. The exit sign displayed an unfamiliar place name, and I had no idea where we were. Filled with unease, Michael continued to drive, humming a tune in the bad weather. It seemed suspicious to come to the sea on such a stormy night. However, I fell asleep again, only to be woken by Michael suddenly saying, "We're here." The sea? What stretched before me was a wildly churning sea. The moonlight eerily illuminated the water, and the waves crashed tumultuously. Just as I was wondering why we were at the sea at such a time, Michael suddenly turned off the car engine, opened the driver's side window, and got out of the car. Rainwater started coming in through the open window, wetting the driver's seat. Hey, Michael. You are stupid. Did you know about today's typhoon? There's no way I'd take you somewhere on such a bad day. I was confused by Michael's sudden burst of laughter. He looked down on me, laughing in a way he never had before. What? Were you deceiving me? You're slow to catch on. Being with you even before the pregnancy was a pain, and since getting pregnant, you've just been lazing around at home, not doing any housework. I don't need a wife like that. His words weighed heavily on me, making me feel unbearable. His words were too much for someone who was supposed to be my partner in our fertility journey. To me, Michael looked like a devil incarnate. Outside the window, the weather was stormy, with rain and wind violently hitting the car. Michael smirked, reached through the window, started the car engine again, and put it in a drive. "I've already got someone else to replace you, so you don't need to come back." The wind and rain raged outside, and Michael laughed triumphantly. His smile sent a chill down my spine. The tumultuous sea and rainstorm overwhelmed my spirit. In a panic, I shouted at Michael. "He'd help me. You know I can't drive, right? With my 9-month pregnant belly." The strong winds outside made it impossible for me to leave the car. Moreover, I didn't have a driver's license, so there was nothing I could do. "Well then, try your best to escape." Watching Michael leave, I was overwhelmed with loneliness and despair. The sea was flooding, and the road was submerged in water. There was no other choice left for me. I closed my eyes, calmed my mind, took a deep breath, and resigned myself to the situation. The next day, with my large belly, I returned home with someone. The thought of Michael, who had left me in the storm, being there made my legs tremble. I asked the person accompanying me to wait outside the house and entered the entrance. There were unfamiliar high-heeled sandals there. I quickly realized what it meant, but my heart still pounded fiercely. Moving to the living room, I saw a man and a woman cuddled up on the sofa, watching TV. The TV was showing the damage from yesterday's typhoon. They didn't notice my presence. It was a hassle. Driving to New York in that typhoon. Wow, that far? Sounds tough. Well, it's all to start a new life with you, Susan. Really? That makes me so happy. Michael's cruel actions and the woman's affectionate response made it all clear to me. Michael had left me in the raging sea to marry this mistress. Sorry to interrupt. But didn't the newscaster just say they found a pregnant woman's body in the typhoon-struck sea? Michael and the woman turned to me in shock, looking at me in disbelief. Michael pointed at me, his voice trembling. Why are you here?" His reaction was as expected. He never imagined the pregnant wife he abandoned at sea far away in New York would return home. "Why?" "Because this is my home." When I started this obvious fact, Michael seemed even more confused. He was screaming incoherently, "Why?" I sighed, looking at Michael and the woman, and revealed the truth. "I thought your behavior was strange yesterday. So I called my father on my phone. Of course, I recorded that call. I forgot, but my father had put a GPS on my phone, which came in handy this time. He drove to Nagata to rescue me. Right?" Then I pointed towards the entrance. Then, my father, who had been waiting outside, entered the room and greeted Michael. "Michael, it's finally nice to meet you." Michael, who had never greeted my father before, seemed quite perplexed by his sudden appearance. "I'm not angry that you never came to greet me before. But I can't forgive you for throwing my daughter into the sea." My father's calm tone made his anger even more evident. Michael visibly flinched at his words. However, trying to maintain bravado or impress the woman, Michael retorted against my father. "Why should I listen to you? Do you even know how much trouble your daughter has caused me, you bastard?" Father's face turned red with anger at Michael's harsh words. I had never seen someone behave so rudely and use such foul language. "What? Did you just insult my daughter? I was willing to pass on my wealth to you, even knowing how self-centered you were. But that was a mistake. I won't give you any of my precious wealth or my daughter." Michael reacted sharply to the word wealth. To Michael, who didn't know much about my father, this was a big surprise. My father, a wealthy investor, intended for me to inherit his assets. However, I hadn't told Michael about this yet. I was planning to tell him once our child was born and things had settled down. But due to the recent events, my father had to break the news. I never heard about this. "Were you deceiving me? Why didn't you tell me?" Michael's tantrum was like that of a child not getting his way. Yes, I intended to tell you. But now, I have no desire to pass my assets to someone who harms my daughter. I wanted to tell you. But your attitude and harsh words made me change my mind. Oh well, you could have lived a life of luxury with our child and me. Such a pity. It's not too late, right? Come on. Let's live together happily as a family of 3 with that wealth, right? Grandpa, you agree, right? Michael's attitude was so outrageous that my father didn't even bother to listen to him. I took out the divorce papers from my bag and handed them to Michael. I intend to divorce you. Naturally, I'll also be seeking child support. Do you think things can go back to how they were before? Shock and anger were evident on Michael's face. His idea of committing infidelity and then trying to secure my father's wealth was extremely unreasonable. Even the woman he was with was shocked, her eyes wide open. Michael, I'm sorry, but I had you investigated by a detective. You've been divorced before, haven't you? You couldn't have children with your previous wife either. I know you're infertile. Yet, you dared to treat my daughter terribly. I have no intention of giving you any of my wealth now. Everyone in the room gasped at my father's words. It was finally revealed that Michael was infertile. He had hidden this, behaving as if the fault lay with me during our fertility struggles. You knew about this and kept quiet? You said you wanted to marry and have children with me, didn't you? No, it's not a lie. I thought I could have children with Daisy. And with you too. Besides, I don't love you. I only thought of marrying you because I heard your parents were wealthy. What am I supposed to do now? Their argument intensified. Unable to bear it anymore, I exploded in anger. Enough. Michael, you're the one having an affair. You're the worst here. You should at least feel remorse for leaving your pregnant wife in a storm. You make me sick. Just get out of here, quickly. I had never shouted like this before, being a calm person. Michael and the woman looked at me in surprise and fear, letting out a small scream. I presented the divorce papers to Michael again. He tore them up in frustration and stormed out of the house. The woman, in a panic, got up and ran off, forgetting her high heels. Phew. What just happened? Since being abandoned at sea yesterday, I felt like I was in a dream. But feeling the lively movements of my child in my belly, I realized this was reality, not a dream. Dad, thank you so much. If you hadn't come, I might have been dead by now. I'm glad I could be there for my precious daughter in her time of need. My father stroked my head, and the warmth of his hand seemed to instantly heal my fatigue. Thus, I divorced Michael, consulted with a lawyer, and successfully received child support. Receiving child support doesn't heal the emotional wounds. But as I'm about to become a mother, I have no choice but to live with a positive outlook. Michael and his mistress didn't end up together. The mistress lost interest in Michael after finding out he was infertile. And she realized he was only marrying her for her parents' wealth, which led to their breakup. It must be shocking to learn that a marriage was sought for money, not love. While I harbor resentment towards her, I can't help but feel a bit sympathetic for her entanglement with Michael. Michael, lacking passion for his work, ended up quitting his job. Since he was never career-driven, it might be difficult for him to find new employment. He'll likely have to make ends meet with part-time jobs while living in a shabby apartment. However, considering the suffering Michael caused me, it still feels like a light punishment. Compared to him, I consider myself fortunate. Now, I'm attending yoga and sewing classes, enjoying my time with other pregnant friends. Once I'm used to parenting, I plan to return to my nursing job. Currently, I'm living a happy life at my father's house, eagerly waiting for the day I meet my child.
I'm home! Sorry I'm late! Last night, my husband and mother, who did not come home, returned in the evening. Despite our father, who is battling illness, being home, they nonchalantly left the house to have fun. There was no sign of remorse in their attitude. I stood imposingly at the entrance, preventing them from entering the house as if it was natural. "It's not, I'm home. Explain this to me." In front of my husband, I thrust out a photo sent by a friend. It captured my husband entering a hotel with a woman, evidence of his infidelity. The woman next to my husband in the photo was my mother. My husband, momentarily surprised, soon burst out laughing and exchanged glances with my mother. "Oh, you caught us. That was quicker than expected. I thought Camila would be more oblivious." As they chuckled together, I was dumbfounded. Since we started living with my parents, I had noticed my husband and mother growing closer, but who could have imagined it would come to this? "So you're admitting to the affair? I can't believe it. It's not an affair. It's serious." My husband blatantly put his arm around my mother's shoulder, smirking at me. I felt nauseated by his repulsive behavior. "So, I'm more attractive than you. And Bob suits me better. I'm closer to his age after all." My mother laughed triumphantly, no longer the mother I knew. Just like my husband, I felt sick seeing her as a woman. Betrayed by the two people I trusted the most, I couldn't stand to breathe the same air as them for another second. "Get out." "What?" "I don't want to see your face anymore. We're getting a divorce. Take that woman and leave now." "Okay. Divorce. Totally fine. That was the plan if you found out." My hatred was far greater than my sadness. Grinding my teeth, I glared at them as my mother, unfazed, said something absurd. "I don't mind separating, but I have no intention of divorcing your father. You and Bob can discuss the divorce." "What? You can't just decide that. You and Dad are obviously getting divorced too." "What are you talking about? He will be gone soon anyway, and after spending so much time together, I'm not giving up on the inheritance." "Right. There should be a hefty pension too. We'd lose out on the inheritance if we divorced." I could only sigh at their selfish reasoning. I wanted to get them out of here as soon as possible. Then, I heard my father's loud voice from behind. "Get out of here right now. Anna, it's fine if we're separated. I loved you, but I can't forgive someone who hurts my daughter. Bob, be prepared." Even in the face of my father's anger, my mother just smirked. "Fine, fine. Then, let's meet again at the funeral. Until then, I won't show my face, so there's nothing you can do. Enjoy your short remaining time with your precious daughter." They left, leaving only those vile words behind. "It's okay. I won't let them have their way. Leave it to me." Tears streamed down my face. I couldn't move, but my father gently patted my back. However, our peaceful time together was short-lived, as my father's condition suddenly worsened, and he passed away. When my mother and husband, grinning, came to claim the inheritance, my father had prepared something for them. The funeral began. Our revenge, mine and my father's, to bring them down to hell, was about to start. I am Camila, 26 years old. Divorced, living with my father at our family home. My father has terminal cancer and is receiving home care, but on good days, we drink tea and watch movies together. Living alone with him, I find peace and happiness in our quiet days. 3 months ago, on that day, my father and I experienced the lowest, worst, and most despairing moments of our lives. Never could I have imagined that moving in with my parents with my husband would lead our family to fall apart like this. Back then, it was unimaginable. I met my now ex-husband, Bob, at the founding anniversary party of my father's company. It was when I was 22, about to graduate from college. I ended up attending in place of my mother, who suddenly couldn't because of back pain. "Director, have you received your drink glass?" As I entered the hotel venue, a man, one of my father's subordinates, approached me. That man was Bob, who would later become my husband. "Not yet. I just arrived." "Camila, this is Bob, the best one of our sales department." Bob came over with 2 glasses of wine, laughing, "Please. Nice to meet you. Director has always been very kind to me. I'm Camila, his daughter. He's always talking about how much he relies on you." When I first met him, Bob struck me as a fresh-faced, good-looking young man in a dark blue business suit. After the president's speech and a toast, it was free time. I followed my dad to greet everyone, then sat down at an empty table to have some snacks. My dad was having a good time with his close colleagues. Enjoying yourself? Can I get you some dessert? No, thanks. I'll get it myself. Bob came over to keep me company, noticing I was sitting alone. How old are you? You look very young. You must mean you're pretty skilled. I'm actually about to turn 33. Been with the company for 10 years. Bob laughed shyly, scratching his head. True, he had a mature air, but there was an innocence and freshness that made him seem in his 20s. Really? You don't look 11 years older than me. 11 years? So you're a student? Yes. About to graduate and become a preschool teacher. It's been my dream job, but now that it's happening, I'm super nervous. Bob listened to my worries about becoming a working adult and gave me some advice. We hit it off and exchanged contact information, occasionally going out for meals and talking. For me back then, Bob was a mentor, an experienced working adult. So, when he said after one of our dinners, I fell for you at first sight. Would you go out with me? I was truly surprised. Despite the age difference, I trusted and liked him, so I had no reason to say no. Even after I graduated and started working as a preschool teacher, Bob always supported me kindly. After 2 years of dating, we decided to get married. When Bob first came to our house to meet my parents, he was surprised to see my mom, Anna. Maybe that's when the seeds of discord were sown. Your mother? Yes, Camila's mom, Anna. People often mistake us for sisters because we look alike, height and figure-wise. Though I guess it's kind of embarrassing for me. It's no wonder Bob was surprised. Anna was 9 years younger than my dad, 45 at the time. She had me at 21 and still kept her figure, often looking much younger than she was. People said we looked alike, but Anna was classically beautiful, while I took after my dad with a slightly raccoon-like face. No, you're really beautiful. Bob was speechless, gazing at Anna, until my dad came to his rescue. Come on, he's getting flustered. Let's prepare some coffee. The greeting went smoothly, and Bob quickly got along with my parents. But I would later learn that Bob's reaction wasn't just embarrassment. Our wedding was grand, with many of Dad's colleagues attending because Bob was one of them. Bob's parents came from afar, making it a truly happy ceremony. After the wedding, Bob remained kind and always cared for my parents, who lived nearby. How about we take your parents on a spa trip? Your mom's back is weak, right? Thanks. You don't have to be so considerate just because Dad was your boss. What are you saying? I love you.